Hey, what's up guys, Chris here. Welcome to the Camera Junkie podcast. Now, this channel is going to be based on basically just a podcast channel, a video podcast channel. I occasionally will do these live, but for the most part I'm going to not do them live. I'm going to do them just like this, got the green screen up behind me. And, I'll have, some sort of background and whatnot, but basically this channel is going to be here for, I had a Camera Junkie channel before. It was called the Camera Junkie, and before that it was called Camera Talk, and I was extremely inconsistent with it, and I want to use this channel to be a little bit more consistent. So basically how this channel is going to work is we're going to start with, I'm going to do, every Saturday there's going to be about a 30, 45, maybe an hour long podcast that's going to come out, and then after that, every hour, it'll be uploaded in the morning, and then every hour after that will be a little snippet from, like for instance, today I'm going to talk about a bunch of different cameras. So there'll be a video, 4 or 5 of these things, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it looks like 8 different videos that I'll be kind of posting right after that, just split up into little sections. So that's the plan. I know a lot of these podcasters out there, you look at Lou Later, he does the Lou Later and then the Lou Later clips, and it kind of just breaks it up into small little snippets, so you don't have to sit there and watch the entire hour and a half podcaster that he does. Same with the Joe Rogan podcast, they do the same thing as well, so the JRE experience and the JRE clips. So that's what this is going to be, but it's all going to be on one channel. I'm really big into cameras, that's why we call it the Camera Junkie. Big time fan of cameras, all of them. So let's go ahead and get into the first. I don't understand it, to be honest with you. It's a camera that has 0 difference. It's no difference than the previous model. None. Not at all. It has a slightly improved autofocus system, so I'll give Canon that. It does have an improved autofocus system. You're looking at a price tag of $599 for the body alone. For the 15 to 45, $699, and now that is expected available at November 25th. The body alone is expected available December 4th, and then there's a kit 15 to 45 and the 55 to 200 millimeter lens that's also expected December 4th. $929 on that one. So I'm not going to knock the price on this because I think the price is right. However, if you go right down spec for spec and you compare these two cameras, there's no difference in the M50 Mark I and the M50 Mark II. In 2020, I think that micro USB has no place in any camera except for like the lowest of the lowest point and shoot cameras with tiny little sensors that people buy that they hardly ever use, and they put it in their pockets and they go to try to travel with it, but they never actually take it out of their pocket because they regularly use their smartphone anyways. But this camera right here still comes with a micro USB, and I think so here's the thing with micro USB. Nobody else is putting it in their cameras anymore. Panasonic's pretty much all on USB Type-C. Sony is the only old timer, I guess. But they only put it in their lower end cameras, I guess. They don't really put it in any of their full frame cameras. And they've been putting it in their APS-C, which I think it's time for Sony to at least give us an upgrade with USB Type-C this coming year or next year. 2021, but Canon elected to put a micro USB in here, which is also, by the way, not a charging port. From my knowledge, I could never charge. I used to have the M50 Mark I. It could never charge through the port. That was just a data transfer port, really, which I don't necessarily prefer to charge my cameras through USB Type-C, through the USB port. But I want the availability, I want the option to be able to do that, because if I'm out and about and I don't really have, and I want to keep using my camera, I can always plug in a battery charger, a battery power bank or whatever, and get, pretty much continuous power. And with these Canon cameras, none of them you can do that with. There's some, I guess, you can get power delivery charger, and that does work, but for the most part, with these micro USB ones, I don't believe that it does work. Please correct me in the comments down below that if I'm wrong. But I don't believe the M50 does work. I don't want to bash this camera that much because it's not a terrible camera. The problem is that it's 2020. They put out a new camera, and it's no different than the one that they put out in, what, 2017 or maybe 2018? And even at the 4K, so they put 4K video in this again, and they put a huge crop, and then they put contrast detect autofocus in the 4K. They updated the 1080p autofocus, and apparently it's just as good as the Canon R6 and R5 in 1080p, but they didn't bother to put it in there, and I don't get it. They have this great dual pixel autofocus system. It's almost as if, well, this would cost us more, but we're aiming this camera to stupid people. And I'm not saying that people buy this camera that are stupid. What I'm saying is that a lot of people are buying this camera because of the price, and that's it. They don't really look at the specs. It's a great content creator camera if you don't really care about 4K. And I think in 2020, if you're not shooting in 4K, you might be wrong, in my opinion. 4K I think is necessary. And I think that Canon kind of missed the ball on this. It really has zero on the... I can't recommend this camera to anybody over the M50 Mark I. And I think that if that's what they're aiming for, and that's what they're trying to get, I think that's a big fail, because the M50 Mark I mean, obviously, you can buy those used now. That's been out for a couple of years. You can get heavy discounts on them. And this is what we get. Basically the exact same cameras, the slightly better autofocus system, the batteries that hasn't changed. There's still a pretty terrible lens lineup for the M50. If it wasn't for those Sigma lenses, the 30mm, the 56mm, and the 16mm lens, I honestly wouldn't recommend the M lineup to anybody if it wasn't for those three lenses. And those lenses are priced right, beautiful lenses. Image quality out of them is just top notch. They are, a great addition if you're looking to the Canon system. Now, I used to have a Canon M50. Matter of fact, I've had it twice. The M50 Mark I had the 16mm f1.4. Beautiful, beautiful lens. I definitely recommend it. It's definitely good. But with this new camera coming out, there's nothing to kind of that makes the camera any better than the original version. Like, this is one of those things where this is what Canon used to do, and it's like they're reverting back to how we used to run business. Now, over the last year or so, Canon has kind of gone ahead. I mean, the R6 and the R5 have put them back on the map as, hey, we're the industry leader. And then this camera comes out and says, oh, we're not really. We don't really want to be the industry leader. We did the same damn thing and rebranded it a Mark II camera. So kind of a bummer on this one. I can't recommend this to anybody, to be honest with you. I can recommend this to people if you can't get your hands on an M50 Mark I anymore. And this is the camera for you, you know what I mean? But that is what it is. So, alright, so the Canon PowerShot Zoom digital camera has come out. Now, this is kind of like a what? And it's also kind of like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. It's basically a action camera, right? That has a ridiculous zoom on it. 100mm to 400mm equivalent optical zoom. It only shoots 1080p at 30 frames per second, which, okay. Oh, folks, here's the thing. They put a USB Type-C on this, but they couldn't put a USB Type-C on the M50 Mark II. Okay, so they put a USB Type-C on this little thing, which, okay, cool. I mean, this little thing is pretty cool. It's $300, $299, B&H Photo. It doesn't say when it's going to be available. And I'm not necessarily sure, because it starts out at 100mm. So this is really a spy camera. That's about it. I'm sure it's got a ridiculously small sensor. But it comes with a USB Type-C to USB Type-C and a little lanyard thing. I kind of like this thing, but again, starting out at 100, kind of, I don't know. It only has a 4:3 aspect ratio. It's got a 1/2.3 sensor in it. 35 millimeter equivalent length from 100 to 400. And it's all optical on digital zoom. Optical 4x zoom, digital 2x zoom. Maximum 8x combined zoom. Okay. And its aperture is 5.6 to 6.3. Focus range is 3.3 feet to infinity. It's interesting to me, this camera is. 1080p 24 and 30 frames per second. And record limit is under 10 minutes. So you can only record for 9 minutes and 59 seconds with this thing. Got a built-in microphone. Well, who's going to need that? And it comes with USB Type-C. So this is like a little action camera, zoom camera. It's got a cool thought process behind it. I think it's kind of, so this has been out in Japan, I think, for a little bit of time, and then basically just recently released to the US. It was all released during the M50 thing. There was also a flash released, but I'm not really going to get into that in this episode here. This thing's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. I think for $300, I don't know who would buy it. Who really needs other than a spy cam, really? If you just need a spy cam to be able to sit, half a mile away from somebody and see what they're eating for lunch. Okay, but yeah, we're not really sure about this one. It's kind of it is what it is. All right, so Fujifilm has released a XS10 camera. Now I like this. So I recently got rid of my Fuji X-T4. I used to have an X-T4 on the old channel. Obviously, all you guys are probably new viewers and stuff like that. So the old channel, the X-T4, I had an X-T4. I don't know what it is. I don't know what settings that I'm using. I don't know. I had to get rid of this camera. Had to go. I had an X-A7, a Fujifilm X-A7, and then I had the Fuji X-T4. And I wanted those two cameras because I wanted something where I could fairly well match the footage. When you're using the same film simulation, you can match the footage. And I liked the cameras. The image quality out of it was amazing. However, I could go out and I could shoot a video, take photos, whatever, and play them back on the screen. Everything works fine. I bring the camera home, take the SD card out, put it in my iPad, and there's about a 50% chance that it was going to work. And that was extremely irritating. And it was with both cameras. So I don't know what the hell I was doing with these Fuji cameras to make it that way. So I just can't see me just getting that lucky to have two cameras that didn't work. But that's my story behind that. Got rid of the X-T4. I'm going to be picking up the A7C soon. But Fujifilm just released a XS10. Now, I'm not really sure exactly where this fits in their Fuji lineup, but here's the thing. I think 2020 has been the year of the content creator. You think about it, more and more YouTubers probably popped up this year than probably any other year prior to it. Why? Well, because a lot of people were sitting home doing nothing for an entire year with this virus and things of that nature. So the Fuji XS10, all these cameras are coming out now with flip screens, and we'll get into the Nikon Z6 and Z7 next, and that still did not put a flip screen on their cameras, but a fully articulating screen on this Fuji XS10. Fuji X-T4 came out with a fully articulating screen. Sony is putting fully articulating screens in their cameras now. Like, it is the year of the fully articulating screen, and it's the year of the content creator. And see, here's the thing. I know there's a lot of controversy behind that, but I read a statement the other day that really made a lot of sense to me. And that statement was that, a lot of people argue that they want just a tilting screen or a fully articulating screen. That's the big argument in the camera industry. That is what it is. That's perfectly fine. But here's the thing. Somebody put a statement in one of the Facebook groups that I follow, and it said that people who need the flip screen, I'll probably screw this up and I'll butcher it completely, but people who need the flip screen can't work around not having it. It can't be done. And people who don't need the flip screen can work around it. So if you require a flip screen, say you're a video person like me, I got my flip screen out. Right now I'm making sure that I'm in focus. It's tracking me and all that good stuff. So that's good. If I didn't have a flip screen, this camera would be kind of useless to me. That's one of the reasons when the Panasonic S1 came out, and that was like, wow, this is like perfect. Full frame, beautiful camera, everything, no flip screen. S5 comes out, beautiful camera, everything I need, and flip screen, I bought it. A7 Mark III, perfect camera, everything I wanted in my camera, I didn't buy it. Why? Because it didn't have flip screen. A7C comes out, it's the same damn camera as the A7 III, I'm buying it because it's got flip screen. If you don't need a flip screen, you can make it work. You can make a flip screen work. If you're a photographer, you can get by with a flip screen. You can make it work. If you're a videographer, you can't do it. XT3 comes out, beautiful camera. It's got everything I need on it. I didn't buy it because it didn't have flip screen. XT4 comes out, bought it right away. Now, we talked about our problems with that. This camera here, spec'd out. It's got the older battery, no problem. Plenty of third-party manufacturers make battery for this. The W126S battery. And this is going to be more of a video-related channel. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm not really going to get too much into photography. I'll get more into the video. You do have the 26 megapixel sensor, so the same sensor. Can't see where it says X-Trans 4 or whatever. Processor. Anyways, so you got DCI 4K at 30 frames per second, standard UHD 4K at 30 frames per second, 100 and 200 megabytes a second. So, I mean, comparing this to the alternative, A6600 or something along those lines, I think that's probably in the range, A6400. You've got higher bit rates on this camera, megabits per second. You got a much higher bit rate on this camera. And more shooting modes, you got DCI 2K. That's something that A7 or 6600, 6400, they don't have any of that stuff. External recording, 422 10-bit and DCI 4K. And so, video-wise, this thing is pretty specced out. So, for $999, this is going to be a great camera. This is going to be a shipping. Will begin November 19th. You're looking at $999 for this camera, and it's going to be a great content creator. It's going to have a great autofocus system. Let me see if they also came out with a new 10 to 24. I'm not all that impressed with it. Compact features, 20 features, APS-C size, 26 megapixel sensor. I can't see if it has the X-Trans 4 sensor, and I didn't read any. Yep, X-Trans CMOS 4 sensor. So it has the X-Trans sensor, so same sensor and processor that is in the XT4, XT3, XT30. So it has all 18 film simulations of the XT4. This thing is stacked for $1,000. This is a mini XT4, capped out at 4K 30. It's going to be a great little camera for anybody who wants to get it. $999, it's $600 less than the XT4, and you're missing the 4K 30, but whatever. You can get it with the 18 to 55 for $13.99. You can get it with the 16 to 80 for $14.99. And that's 16 to 80 would be a great little lens. I had that lens for the XT4. It was excellent. All right, now Nikon has released their Z6 and Z7s. You get the Z6 now for $1996.95 with the 24 to 70, the 25.96. I believe that's the same price as the Z6 Mark I when it came out. And I've also read that this is the first Mark II camera that Nikon's ever put out. Mark version. Normally they just increase the numbers like they would have called it, but they can't increase this to the Z6 to the Z7 because there already was a Z7. But again, we'll get into like some video specs here real quick. It's going to shoot 4K 60, I believe that I read that. I'm also not seeing that. 428-bit UHD, 30 frames per second. I'd read that it's supposed to be 4K 60, but it's not showing that on B&H Photo. Again, external recording. These Nikon cameras, these are the only cameras of 2020 that came out, to my knowledge, that do not have a fully articulating screen. But here's the thing. Nikon has always been aimed, I think in my opinion, my personal opinion, been aimed more at photographers. And photographers don't necessarily want the fully articulated screen. And to be honest with you, when I'm out taking photos, I don't either. It makes sense to me, I don't either. When I'm out just shooting photos and not video, I don't want a fully articulated screen. So these Nikon cameras are really more meant for photographers. Granted, you know, these also have some pretty badass video features on there. 4K, you know, 30 frames per second, N-Log, 10-bit, HDMI out. I mean, it has great video features as well, so don't take that lightly. I mean, these Nikon cameras also have great autofocus systems now. Their lenses are really great. I do think they kind of lack a little bit in lens lineup. Now, with that being said, pump the brakes a little bit. Their Nikon Z-mount lens lineup is complete. They've got everything you need. A great lens lineup. Where I think they lack is dedicated, and I'm talking not dedicated, but Z-mount third-party lenses. There's no Z-mount at all that are autofocus. Now, obviously, you can get the F to Z adapter, and you can mount all of those third-party, you know, Sigma Glass and Samyang, and they've got everything there. But I don't personally want to put an adapter on my cameras. And I stand here and I talk about this. The Panasonic L mount is probably the worst of all of them, dedicated Panasonic lenses. But they do have the Sigma lenses right now that kind of save the day. They're dedicated Sigma lenses. They screw right onto the top of onto the mount. Nikon doesn't have that. Canon doesn't have that. They've got two. Canon's got two Samyang lenses. The 14mm f2.8 great lens. I've had that lens in the past. It is a great lens. I've just actually recently bought it already again for the A7C, the 14mm f2.8 Samyang lens. I think that is the one thing, in my opinion, that leads people towards the Sony full-frame system, is just, you know, lens for lens. I mean, I think that for the most part, Canon and Nikon have everything you need, right? You know, they got 24-70. They got ultra-wide zoom lens. They've got some great primes. They've got the 70-200. Great lens lineup. They've got everything you need. What they lack is that third party, I think, in my opinion. Obviously, again, they have the entire third party if you want to adapt. And on this also, it looks like they are giving the F to Z adapter for like $45 if you want to get that. So you can get that in a bundle for an extra $45 rather than $200 and something that this normally costs. So you can get to the FTC adapter and be able to buy all those third-party lenses. You know, they've got the entire lineup of Sigma lenses. They've got obviously the full range of Nikon F-Glass. And then they've got the full range of third-party lenses, Sigma and Samyang and many others. But dedicated, connecting the lens directly to the camera without an adapter, there's nothing. There are some third-party lenses that don't have autofocus, that are manual focus only, you know, Makey and things of that nature, but nothing dedicated. Still, the Z6, you get a 24.5 megapixel FX format BSI CMOS sensor. So they have the Z5 that has a 24 megapixel sensor that's not BSI. And then the Z5 has cropped 4K. This doesn't have any crop in 4K. Dual X-Speed 6 image processors. So the X-Speed 6 has been out for quite a while now. I believe some of their DSLRs had X-Speed 6. But this has dual. X-Speed processors now, so it's going to be quite a bit faster. Alright, so the Z7 also came out. Now you can get the Z7 for $2996.95. It's almost about $3,000. If you want to get the 24 to 70 f4, you can get it for $3,600. Again, and they also have the F to Z adapter you can get for like $50. You get a 45.7 megapixel FX format BSI CMOS sensor. This one does have UHD 4K 60, so you can get 60 frames per second in 4K. N-Log 10-bit HDMI out, 10 FPS continuous shooting, dual X-Speed 6 processors. So you get that big 45.7 megapixel sensor. I think these cameras are going to be great, again, for the photographers out there, because, again, this is the only camera that the Z6 and Z7 this year, to my knowledge, that came out without a fully articulating screen. Now, one thing I do want to address here, too, is dual card slots on this one. So the original Z6 and Z7 did not have dual card slots, and that was kind of a big deal. So this one has one CF Express Type B XQD card and one SD UHS-2 card slot. So both the Z6 and Z7 have those 2 card slots. So you got XQD, CF Express, and UHS-2. So that's going to be really good. Also, there is a dedicated battery grip now. That was one of the major complaints I think that a lot of Nikon users had when the Z6 and Z7 came out, that there originally wasn't a vertical battery grip. They did come out with that weird looking thing that kind of attaches, that was like kind of really sort of half-assed, for lack of a better term. And it didn't look like it really fit the camera very well. But it gave you 2 extra batteries, so that was kind of nice. But now they have a dedicated Nikon MB N11 power vertical pack with vertical grip. And it does look like it fits properly. It looks like it's gonna line up with the camera the right way. So that is kind of cool. It does have looks like 2 batteries I can add to it. I personally do like to have a battery grip with my camera, and I don't always have it on. And I don't intend to get one for this, I don't think, for this Panasonic S5. How's my battery doing? Okay. I don't intend to get one for the S5, but maybe. We'll see. But yeah, the Z6 and Z7 Mark II's versions came out this week, and I think there's going to be really great cameras for photographers. And again, you know, they're not just for photographers, because they do have now great video features. The Nikon Z6 and Z7, well, really this more the Z6, I would say. Most people are shooting video about the Z6 over the Z7. Most people are shooting photography about the Z7 over the Z6. Both cameras are great for both things. I don't personally, I'm not that big of a fan of Nikon cameras. That's just my personal opinion. That's just me. I don't typically like the menu system. Again, it's been years though since I've had a Nikon camera, so maybe these new menu systems, and I just haven't played much with these new ones, these newer Nikon mirrorless cameras. It just really hasn't been my thing. Yeah, but Nikon's, I mean, I have nothing against them. They're great systems. A camera that came out from Panasonic this week, Lumix BGH1. I'm saying it's, you know, the GH1, just like the old GH, but a box camera. I like this. You got a 10.2 megapixel micro four thirds sensor, 13 stops of dynamic range, 4K 60, 422, dual native ISO, very cam look, V-Log L. This thing is pretty stacked. Excuse me. The only thing I don't really get about this camera is, for $2,000 bucks, it's $1997.99. For that price, the camera is right next to useless. you get it out of the box. I'm assuming there's like an app or something maybe you can use, but you've got to buy a monitor for this. One thing I do like about this, though, is that it's got a USB Type-C, and you can record to a SSD. Much like Zcam, I've actually quite been interested in a Zcam camera. I do like this thing that all has a hot shoe. So one of the great major things that I bought this for, the S5, was because it comes with, I did a little thing yesterday, and I'm getting the XLR adapter for free. Now I'm on an XLR microphone here, but it's XLR to 3.5 millimeters, so it's going into the camera directly. I do have a pod mic, Rode pod mic in there, in the room behind me, and once I get the XLR adapter, I will also get, they have like a dummy battery that you can get, and then plug it into external power, so I can just kind of do these channels with these, because right now I'm on battery alone, and I'm 31 minutes in, and it's running off battery. But this camera comes with a giant like video camera battery. It looks cool. I'm not really sure that for this price, if you came to me and said this or the GH5S, spec wise are basically the same cameras, I would definitely lead you in the GH5X territory, because at least the GH5S, you pull that thing out of the box, put a lens on it, and you're rocking and rolling. This thing, you pull it out of the lens, and you can't even tell what there's no like LCD screen on it to even tell like what frame rates you're in. You've got to have some sort of external monitor. Now I do know that you can connect this thing to your computer. There's probably an application you can probably connect it to an iPad or a computer, and be able to change your settings and stuff like that and see everything, and that's cool. But yeah, I don't know. Cool idea, and I think there's gonna be a lot of people that, like, you know, documentary types are probably definitely gonna buy this for sure, and that's something I'm actually quite interested in myself. But again, for the same price, you can also buy this S5, and you get a full frame sensor and a lot of the same features this has. Something to think about. Obviously, you know, lenses are a lot more expensive when it comes to full frame, and not much more than this. You can get an S5 or an S1, I guess. Get even more features. Oh, this is tough. But I'd also, so here's what I think. I think that what this is going to be is, I think Micro Four Thirds, in my opinion, is probably dead. Except for things like this. It's going to kind of turn into, Micro Four Thirds is going to kind of turn into like a cinema camera type thing. It started with the, I probably didn't start with, it's just the one that I know off the top of my head, the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. You know, they put a Micro Four Thirds sensor, Micro Four Thirds mount, made a freaking crazy, awesome cinema camera. Zcam came out with a bunch of Micro Four Thirds ones. I'm pretty sure there's other. There was like that Sharp 8K thing that never really came out. And now this, I think what you're seeing here is, you know, it's been almost 4 years since the GH5 came out, and I think we're never going to see a GH6. I think what Panasonic is doing with their, like, I guess consumer grade, because I don't consider this a consumer grade. I don't think a consumer grade person, to me a consumer grade person is somebody that's kind of like me, I guess, where I shoot mainly for fun. I shoot mainly for, I intend to do work in the future with the real estate photography and videography and stuff like that. But this, I think, is a little bit more of a professional lineup of cameras for a more professional level, I guess, in my opinion. And I think that's what you're going to see Micro Four Thirds kind of go through. I don't think you're going to see a GH6. I really don't. And if you do see a GH6, I think you'll probably see it in an APS-C camera with the L mount. I think that's what you'll see. I don't think you'll see this. I think Micro Four Thirds from now on will be a dedicated cinema camera, professional level cinema camera. I think that's what you're going to get. You know, and they've got different ranges. You know, the Zcam E2C, I think it's called. It's like $800. You know, it's got Micro Four Thirds. It's got a lot of great features on there. That does have a little LED screen on it. That does. But you know, you got apps and stuff like that that run that entire camera. It's pretty awesome. All right, last couple of things here. DJI Ronin SC2, DJI Ronin RSC2 gimbal came out, and RS gimbal, RS2. The RSC2 is $499. Now, I used the Ronin gimbal, Ronin SC before, years ago. I don't have it anymore. But that thing was pretty cool. I'm not really that big into gimbals. I think when I get into the videography, excuse me, when I get into real estate videography, I'm gonna want to get a Ronin SC2, and I probably will get this. I don't know if I'll get this one or if I'll buy the a Zhiyun version, June version, whatever you want to call it. But I like this. I watched a couple of videos on it. It seems pretty good. A lot of people don't really like the Ronin, the DJIs. And here's the thing. When I had the DJI Ronin SC2, it was great if you were really just kind of standing still and moving. I didn't like the movements of that gimbal when I used to use it. There was a couple different modes that kind of made it faster and slower. And it was a little too jerky for me. Like when you put it into like the fastest mode, it was like it was just way too fast, and then when you put it in the slowest mode, it was just way too slow. And even in the middle, it wasn't really any different than the slow mode. So I didn't really care for it that much. You can get this for $499. The thing was with DJI though is they tend to bring their prices down quite quickly. So if you're in the market for a DJI, you know, if you don't need it right now, if you currently have a gimbal that works, if you wait a year, you probably get it quite a bit cheaper. One thing I do like about this is and it was a problem that I had with the Ronin 2, or the DJI Ronin SC that I had, was you always had to change out the plate that came with it. The quick release plate that came with it didn't fit anything else that I had. It didn't fit anything else that I had. So I had to always take the plate off, put the different plate on. So this time they actually put like a quick release plate that uses a standard like Arca Swiss plate, and it attaches to the main plate. So you really, once you get it set and you only have one camera, you literally never have to do anything. That's so nice, because once you set and you balance it once, you just pop the camera on, pop the camera off. You never have to rebalance it. I like that. That's pretty awesome. They tried to sort of kind of do that with the Ronin SC before and Ronin before, but it didn't quite work out. I always had to reset it for the most part. It's kind of a pain in the ass. The Ronin SC2, DJI Ronin RS2 is $849. And this thing can, I mean, you can put some big cameras on there. 10-pound payload. That's ridiculous. The 6.6 pounds for the SC. 10 pounds. That's a big camera, folks. They're talking, I mean, the camera they've got here is the 1DX Mark III. That's about as heavy as you can get for a prosumer, I guess, a consumer level camera, I guess. I guess that's not really consumer level, that's a pro camera, no matter what way you look at it. I don't think there's too many people out there that just casually shoot and they have a 1DX Mark III. But again, like I said, I've had the Ronin SC before, and I didn't like it. They say, I watched a couple of videos. I watched Kai Wong's video on it, and he said that it's changed a little bit. It's a little bit more smoother. But I do believe that if I go with another gimbal, it'll probably be a a June crane of some sort. I think that might be just a little bit better. I didn't really like that, but I always put it in like the fastest mode, and it was like if you're trying to go straight and you just move your hand just slightly, it would just that thing was really kind of jerky. I've also had the Crane M2, and that thing was absolutely junk. It was terrible. Maybe it just didn't work. I don't know. I balanced it, and you turn it on, and it just sagged. And I had this tiny little camera on there. I'm like, there's no way this doesn't work, but it didn't. So, yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, guys, that is about it for the very first episode of the Camera Junkie podcast. We are about 40 minutes in right now as we speak. It hit 40. That might not be the same because I'll probably cut some little bit off here and there. But anyways, Camera Junkie podcast. This is my very first episode. Like I said, it's going to be every Saturday. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a great weekend. Later.